You win.
Please do me the honor of accepting my hand.
Marry me.
Will you marry me?
Will you marry me?
First comes the perfect proposal, followed quickly by the panic wedding planning. It can all be an intimidating process for many newlywed engaged couples. Next week, our wedding series will cover everything from fashion to flowers and food. But before we get to all of that today, we look at the crucial first steps. Alison McGill is the editor-in-chief of Wedding Bells magazine, and she's with us here this morning. So, yeah, I mean, it all begins with the engagement, and even, I guess, to begin with, how you announce it.
Absolutely. So we're coming here today to talk about some tips when you're first engaged. So the first thing that you need to do is think about how you announce that news. Everybody wants to tweet and Facebook this kind of stuff these days. Let's take a step back and get more personal. You need to be careful before you do that. So my advice is it's face-to-face with the most important people. So if there's children involved in this union, the children need to know first, followed by the parents and the siblings. Then we move on to the family and the friends, and then sort of as the food chain gets a little more distant from your relationship with them, then we can take it public. But don't put it public first and foremost, because you'll be getting lots of phone calls, and people will be like, hello, what?
Yeah, you couldn't
tell us
pick up
first?
the phone. What's, I guess, the first thing to consider when, after the engagement and the announcement, you've now got this big process, provided you're not running away and eloping, but even then you have a process. What's the first thing you need to do? You
really need to start thinking about that wedding date and the venue, because, you know, in our lovely country of Canada, wedding season is really contingent on weather. So between May and October, if you're getting married, be prepared that the venues that you want are probably going to be booked a year in advance, and you really need to, like, you know, celebrate for a day or two, maybe even a week, but then put some thought towards that date and the venue, because if you don't, you'll be disappointed.
And then you have to get down to brass tacks, because all, you know, you need I guess, a budget. Yeah,
so budget and booking that date and the venue all goes hand in hand. So, you know, don't think that you can't start thinking about dollars and cents first. A happy marriage starts with a happy budget and a happy wedding. So you need to really nail down all that stuff. And there's lots of tools out there to help you with all this kind of planning. Weddingbells.ca, we have some great resources for that. But, you know, you really need to get on this stuff ASAP, and then everything the planning process can start from there.
So the budget is really critical for all of those things before you make this up, because you can't even book anything without that.
Absolutely. You have to know what your bottom line is. So you need to know where you're going to spend, where you're going to save, and that's going to determine the whole look and feel of your wedding.
After a couple gets engaged, and with all of that going on, I mean, that's tough. That's a tough period of time for a lot of people.
Yes, it is. So you really need to take a step back. You're making these decisions. You're happy, you're engaged. Now you're forced with making these, I don't want to say forced, you're making these decisions, but you might not have thought you needed to make them so quickly out of the gate. But don't forget that you're going to be celebrating the engagement, and the engagement is a period where, you know, it is that nice part of a relationship. It's a step towards marriage, so it is another unique part of the relationship. So celebrate that. You know, have date nights, book a romantic getaway, and be prepared to party, because there's going to be lots of celebrations and toasts. It's just tip of the iceberg. So the engagement really kicks off, you know, 12 to 16 months, depending on how long your period is, of, you know, planning, but also partying and celebrating and, you know, being together and enjoying that time.
And then Twitter?
and of course, tweet it along the way.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, Alison, for coming in. And Alison returns next week on Monday, a guide to gowns. From the bride to the bridesmaids, we'll show you the top trends in dresses. We'll also like you to send us or tweet us, speaking of which, or even post photos of your worst bridesmaid dresses. We can take a look at that as well.